Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're listening. This is the Fantasy College Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Tony DeMarco. Welcome in, everybody, to week three of the Fantasy College Wrestling season 2025. As always, joining me is Todd Shaftik, my co-host. Todd, how you doing?
Good, man. A little tired from work, but nothing like wrestling will wake you back up. So, can't wait to discuss some wrestling for week 3.
Exciting wrestling like we had with the Journeyman Classic, Wranglemania, which were probably the biggest headline getters. I guess that's the term to use last week with, some of the upsets that we had. And, what one big one was Luke Stanich beating Kairini. And I mean, that we can get right into kind of off track with what is Lehigh going to do with Brignola won the Journeyman Classic. He's in redshirt at 65. Stanich at 41. He's in redshirt. I haven't seen Malik Hines really at all. Do you take those guys out? Maybe try to get Malik Hines up at 149 and try to maximize the most amount of points because you have Beard, or do you redshirt them and try to revamp next year when you lose Beard? Or, I mean, I know it's very early into the podcast that we're getting kind of deep here in the lineups, but
I with how good Stanich looks, and that's up 2 weights. I know they said he could make 33, but that's where Crookham is.
Right.
But if he just knocked off 2 All-Americans, I say you wrestle him. And same with Brignola.
In this day and age, it's hard to make the sell of red shirt. Let's hold it back. Let's hold you back, even though you're ready to go and you can probably AA or even contend for a title. Let's hold off on a year. That it doesn't work like that anymore. These guys these kids are battle ready.
Yeah, you also have to take into account NIL money, because a team that is desperate need for a 41 pounder, and you put Stanich on red shirt, and somebody else comes knocking and says, "Hey, we'll give you $100,000 to be our starting 141 pounder," then you lose him, and he never wrestles for you again.
One of the biggest things to come out of this to remember with NIL and this new free agency period is, for the most part, every athlete, unless you have some type of NIL contract with the collective or something like that, which I don't even know the legality of, from what I hear, they're creating contracts with buyout clauses and stuff like that, but you're essentially every year a free agent at the end of the season. So there's football teams out there who are saying we have to re-recruit our guys every year. That's completely different. 180 of the model of, okay, I got this guy for at least 2 years, 3 years. We got him under scholarship, and everything. But wrestling's always been different compared to those bigger sports. But, well, okay, good transition into some of the biggest news of the past couple of days. Gable Steveson announces that he's going to be coming back to wrestle for the Minnesota Gophers. Kind of mixed emotions about the announcement. Some happy, some not so happy, some confused, some angry. We laughed, we cried.
I'm sure Kirkfleet's not happy.
Oh, yeah, probably. Well, from his interview last year after Nationals, he doesn't care. It doesn't matter. We just have fun. But he's got to be kind of pissed at that, because he was. He don't want to say he's going to cakewalk into the finals, but I don't know. Feldman probably would give him fits. A healthy Younger with a full 2 hands, not a broken pinky or whatever it was, probably would give him fits. Wyatt Hendrickson probably fits, but he can handle that. Stevenson, from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever, that's unstoppable.
Yeah.
That begs the question, what kind of Stevenson are you going to get? He's going to be second semester. He's not going to be wrestling first semester. He's going to be a second semester guy. So it's going to be all duels, basically. He's probably going to have like 10 matches. He's going to get the minimum and then enter, Big Tens with an 8-0 record or 10-0 record, something like that. But what are your thoughts? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think or are you indifferent?
I like it for the sport. It's good for the sport. He's the biggest name probably out there. He but the reason this is happening is because everything else that he tried besides wrestling didn't work out.
Right.
He got he got flushed out of the WWF or the WWE, I should say. I guess he didn't have enough charisma, or he didn't have what they were looking for. And then he tried football, and he didn't make it to the football, to the Bills either. So, last I heard, was he playing in Canadian Football League or trying out for the Canadian Football League?
I think that was a rumor.
But whatever happened, I think,
I don't.
yeah.
Know.
I think the reason he's back in wrestling is because nothing else was working out.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same mindset. If this were maybe a year ago, I'd be a little bit more ecstatic about it. If he came back I know the WWE kind of blocked him from going to the Olympics. So I mean that was a little bit beyond his control. But yeah, to what you said, he's kind of coming back to wrestling because it's like his last thing. He had the chance to be one of the biggest names in wrestling forever. Decided to go WWE, chase the money, which is fine. You do what you gotta do. But then going from one endeavor to another, and then it's kind of like, going back, you're in college and you go back to high school and you're a big man on campus. That's basically what's happening. He's Billy Madison outside this high school with his Camaro blasting music.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know. I'll be excited to watch his matches because he's just that entertaining. He's just that much of a natural freak when it comes to what he can do to opponents. But it's almost like he's at the point of next topic, and I don't know. It doesn't get me going.
Yeah, the one part of that I'm interested to see is, has Kirkfleet closed the gap with Gable?
Right.
Because Kirkfleet is a completely different wrestler now than he was 2 years ago, and he was the only guy that took Gable down the last time that they wrestled that season. Kirkfleet had 2 takedowns against Gable. Didn't have a complete game yet, but Kirkfleet is so much more improved on the mat. I'm just wondering, I don't think Kirkfleet's quite as good as Gable is on neutral, but I'm wondering if he's closed the gap at all, on the mat. Can Kirkfleet put the ride on Gable and maybe change the course of the match a little bit by getting that riding time point and maybe grinding on Gable a little bit on top?
Yeah, and I'm trying to see, do they wrestle each other?
Probably won't until the Big Ten, unless
they don't have a duel together this season. Damn, that would have been funny. Because we were talking last pod about they don't really do many tournaments or anything like that. They don't get super tested. They have good duels and they have tough duels with Iowa State or Iowa and the collegiate duels in Ohio State and Michigan and all that. Those are tough duels. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a grind of a tournament like the Las Vegas or Scuffle or Midlands or whatever. This is the Black Knight Open. That's kind of their, and they used to go to the Keystone Classic, so they're probably using the Black Knight invite as their wrestle-offs, their last chance wrestle-offs, essentially. Yeah. So maybe we'll see Kasich and Facundo, because rumor is that that's going on at one point.
I also heard a rumor that 197 might not be settled with just Josh Barr as the starter. That Cochran, Fraccione, and Mirasola are all in the mix at that weight.
Yeah, I know Minio came out with a just laundry list of what he saw or heard about Penn State wrestle-offs. But yeah, 97. I know with Starachi coming back, that kind of threw a wrench into everything, because you figured Barr was going to go down to 84, and that's a more natural way for him. Now he's kind of pushed up to 97. Cochran was already there. You have Mirasola. We were just talking about, do you keep red shirts if Mirasola's ready to go? Which all indications are he's probably ready to go, him and his brother. But you got red shirts and you got Kirkfleet in front of the other Mirasola. I don't know. Penn State has a good problem in that they have so many good wrestlers that they can, if one goes down, it's basically another national contender right there.
Yeah.
But I think, and this is kind of projecting out in another tangent that we're not even anywhere close to talking about, there's going to be a time of like, I don't know what the best term is, maybe diminishing returns or something like that. So you're going to get these top ranked guys, but you have Messenbrink, Haynes, Seeley, Barr, who are the other ones I'm thinking of?
Duke's coming in.
Duke's coming in. Who's Ryder? You have all these guys within 3 weight classes almost. You can't enter 2 people at the same weight. So it's there's I think there's going to be some transfers because again, see, it goes full circle. It goes back to every year you have to re-recruit your guys. But
yeah, you have they lost Beard. That was a good wrestler that had to leave. But yeah, eventually, I mean, you have they just recruited Blaze now, the number 1 recruit from 2025 coming in. So I mean, you have not only just at the upper weights, but even some at the lower weights. You have there's only 10 spots. So I mean, Kale's been done a genius job of it so far to balance it all out, but eventually you're going to run out of red shirts, gray shirts, Olympic shirts. Eventually everybody's going to have to wrestle, and there's just not enough spots for everybody. So there's definitely going to be other people that they're going to have to leave.
Right. And I mean, going into it, Kale and company, they go in with a plan, with a sales pitch, like every coach does. Here's our plan. Here's our lineup. Here's where we see you fitting into it. Maybe Kale pulls out his Pokemon cards for like a little, comedic relief or something like that. But you have to figure that that's what's going into these kids coming in, because they know there's 3-4 guys at this weight that could be starting, that could be AA contenders. So I got to fight for my own. But laying out that plan and then actually executing that plan, because guys will say, yeah, next year I'll take a red shirt, and then they win a national championship. Like look at Haynes. I think everybody assumed, and what they say about assuming, everybody assumed he was going to be red shirting to allow movement for Facundo and Messenbrink and Kasich and all that. And now he's starting at 174. Going against maybe the plans that everybody thought was going to happen. But, so it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. Good thing is they have a lot of money that they can throw towards NIL.
Yeah.
But, so let's move on to the actual fantasy talk here. Let's run through it pretty quick. We don't want to keep you guys too long. You got things to do. But we'll first take a look at last week's standings. So we have some updated standings with the overall and with the week 2 on its own. Let's see here if I can figure out how to share screen. I think that's doing it. Did that do it? Yep, that did. Yeah, there we go. All right. So with that is week 2. Journeyman and Wranglemania did a number for a lot of people in movement up and down the rankings, overall rankings. But for week 2, Braden Scholes from Illinois gets the number 1 spot, 5 matches, 5.4 points per match. He had something like 4 techs, 2 pins, something ridiculous like that. So in 5 matches, he got 21 fantasy points. And then you have a quadrant of Keegan O'Toole, Cannon Webster, Magnus Bilba. That's definitely a name that you thought of coming into this week. Was going to be on the and Aiden Wallace from Duke, number 2 at the weight at 165. Also, so that's the thing about these fantasy weeks. Some guy hits just a good break in a tournament and can just rack up points like this. Bryce Hepner did the same thing. He had 4 matches, 19 fantasy points on the day. So, I mean, if you look at this, there were a few red shirts, one from Cal Baptist. Cody Merrill winning what tournament was he at? shoot, what
It's
did
on the Michigan State Open, right?
Michigan State Open. That's it. Ran through that as the number 2 seed, I think, or the way it looked, he was like the number 2 seed. But Cody Merrill wins that in his first NCAA wrestling D1 tournament as a Cowboy under David Taylor. So this is your week 2. The article should be coming out soon. That just kind of shows this, gives a little bit of a breakdown. Now, if we go to the overall standings, we take a look here. There was a lot of movement. Last week, we had Michael Beard as the number 2. He jumps into the number 1 spot. If that would, I think, did I do the wrong one?
That's the same one.
That's the same one. So let's try something different. How about that?
Yes.
Is that it? That's it. There we go. Okay, so we got Michael Beard right here, number 1 spot, 36 points. He won the Journeyman Classic. So that was 3 matches for him. They did Lehigh this year didn't wrestle in Wranglemania, so that's 2 matches that they didn't have. Jimmy Mullen wrestled at the Mountaineer Invite along with Hunter Katka. They met in the finals, and Mullen pinned him.
Yeah.
So for all intents and purposes, it looks like Mullen is going to be your starter for Virginia Tech, which isn't a bad thing. Like I said, I got him on my fantasy team too.
It's bad for my team because I have Katka. So
you got Katka, so
I have no heavyweight right now.
You got to look elsewhere for that. Owen Truffin again having a nice under the radar backup fantasy season. So we'll see how much wrestling he gets done. You have to think in this day and age too, with the potential with injuries, you want your backups to have a good RPI and a good schedule and good matches and send them to a lot of tournaments just in case, right?
Yeah. I never understood the I'm going to redshirt and not wrestle any matches philosophy. If I was redshirting, I'd want to get at least like 40 or 50 matches in. Like they don't count, so I would want to wrestle all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go crazy like Jonathan Ross back in 2019, where he had like something ridiculous, like almost 60 matches. Fantasy Hall of Famer, first ballot.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's just outrageous. But wrestle a few opens. I mean, with the rules now with the 5 dates, that makes it a little bit easier. Wrestling attached as a true freshman, they should apply it to all grades. 9, 10, not what the hell am I talking about? Freshmen through seniors, through super seniors. If you're redshirt, you get 5 matches that don't count towards your redshirt. Not just true freshmen having it, but at least have a couple opens in the second semester or something. I don't understand that either. I don't get unless you're that needing to be ingrained into college and get a structure down, like a routine, then I can understand that. But for the most part, get out there and wrestle. That's what you're there to do.
Yeah, I mean, the worst part about wrestling are practices. Like, would you really want to go a whole season and do nothing but practice? Like, the only fun part about wrestling is actually wrestling.
Going to the matches, doing the tournaments and everything.
Yeah.
Cutting weight and having to sweat and practice, that's not fun. You have nothing to show for it, basically.
Nobody grabs their friends on a Friday night and goes, let's go to the side of the wrestling room and get 6 matches.
There's probably some wrestlers out there that think that's fun. But let's see. So Owen Truffin is the highest backup here that we have on the standings. Right behind him, Brock Herman, also tied with 33 fantasy points on the year, but the lower PPM. So he's there. 5.3 for Braden Scholes. We just showed he was top of the week 2. So that he went something like from overall 235th place to 5th. Something ridiculous like that because of the 6 matches he had, or the 4 matches that he had, 3 matches that he had. Sonny Sasso didn't wrestle at the Mountaineer Invite. He didn't wrestle in week 2. He falls all the way back down from the number 1 spot to the number 6 spot. So still in the top 10. Not bad. Max Brignola, we were just talking about with Lehigh. What do they do there at 65? He's the highest ranked red shirt with 29 winning the Journeyman Classic. And then if you go down, you can kind of take a look. Luke Stanich is there. You got a couple other Lehigh guys. Vincent Robinson up here at number 11. He had himself a Journeyman Classic.
Yeah.
And on the reverse side, his teammate Jacob Camacho had a not so good, very bad, terrible day of 0-3.
Yeah, he went barbecue.
Yeah, he did not. I don't know. That's something that they're going to have to take a look at. Does he go up to 33? Maybe Camacho, because right now Robinson's got the inside track. You got to imagine. Well, we'll see what the preview says for their duels this week, and I think they're at Appalachian State and the Jersey Jostle. Marcus Pettit. Who we got else here? Ethan Bergen had a great week. Kairini, we said lost to Stanich by decision. You figure if he beats Stanich, that's a 6-point swing. He goes from 23 points, he'll have 29 points then in fantasy. He goes all the way up to around here, maybe cracking the top 10 at that point. So
Yeah.
one match can catapult you up or down these standings. And then Franklin Marshall, Bryce Kreshko is your tied for, I think, 32nd place. Yeah, right here on that. So good week of wrestling. This overall standing is going to change drastically within the next couple of weeks, but we're here for the excitement, for the chaos on that. So anything else you want to talk about with week 2? Any other matches that stood out or tidbits?
I think we covered it all pretty well.
All right, let's move on to your week 3 best plays. So there's going to be a couple good dual meets here for us to take a look at, and a lot less tournaments than there were last week. This week, the main D1 tournament is going to be Daktronics. You got your usual suspects. Minnesota is going to be there. South Dakota State is going to be there. Some other teams are going to be sending some backups and other D1, competition there. There's also the Grandview Open. UNI is going to be there. Iowa's sending people. Dresser came out, I think it was yesterday. He had his media day. I love Dresser media days. He's very transparent. He tells you exactly who's going where, what they're thinking. He'll keep a little bit, his cards a little bit to the chest about weight, but he basically called out Evan Frost. He's like, yeah, Evan could have went at 133, but the one person you can't beat is the scale. What was he saying? I think he said, like, your girlfriend will lie to you, your mom will lie to you, your coach will lie to you, the scale won't lie to you. So just kind of being very blunt with it. But he's wrestling in the All-Star Classic this weekend too. So maybe they were just waiting for him to get down the weight for that.
Yeah.
You gotta think. They could have probably used him for the duel. But yeah, whatever.
I don't think it would have made a difference in the outcome.
I don't know. The Knox looked so good this weekend. He knocked off Ayala, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, not that it came out of nowhere, but that definitely was not the result I was thinking of. And speaking of comebacks, how about that match with Caliendo?
Yeah.
And Hunter Garvin? What a match! I kept saying I think Caliendo is a tier on his own coming in. I thought Messenbrink, no one's going to touch him. We haven't seen him wrestle this year. Obviously, year to year change. But if we're going off historical data and how we looked last year, he's in a tier on his own. I think Caliendo is the second tier guy, and then it's everybody else at 65. And Hunter Garvin was challenging that take during the match, but Caliendo came back and won it. So far, I'm still validated in my tier system. But as we were saying, Daktronics Open, Grandview is going to have Iowa State guys, UNI guys, Iowa guys, maybe a couple other D1 teams send some people, but it's going to be very, very heavy on the D2, D3 open type of competition. So for fantasy, you might get a match or two depending on how they structure the brackets and things like that. Don't look for those tournaments to be home run hitters necessarily. So just keep that in mind. There's a couple other tournaments out there, Shorty Hitchcock Open, which will have probably some Southeast or Mid-Atlantic teams going there. I think there's like Finlay Open, Drury Open, things like that. Those are very low D1 competition. So this week is very dual heavy. So we have a lot of good matchups, a lot of good opportunities for points. This is an opportunity to try to jump in the standings of your fantasy leagues. Starting at 125, of course, Matt Ramos, one of your top fantasy guys from last year. They have the Buffalo duel, so they're at Buffalo, wrestling Buffalo and Army. Sneaky, decent match potentially with Matt Ramos and Charlie Farmer, who's taken over 25 for Army. I liked him last year as a backup to Bergen. But Brandon McCrone looks to be getting the starting spot over Kilcarry right now. So he's going to be wrestling those two duels for Ohio State. And of course, my computer just kind of crapped out on me there. There we go. Okay, now we're good. Who else at 25? Spratly. We got Oklahoma State wrestling this week.
I like Steve O'Poulin this week.
This week should be a good
at Drexel at Penn. I think he gets 2 wins plus 6.
I think so. He's going to have a tough match with Gallagher from Penn. I think he handles Drexel pretty easily. Drexel's a little bit. It seems like they're a little bit down this year, but Penn has a sneaky good team, sneaky tough team, and Gallagher's going to be tough to beat. So that should be a good one. Well, we'll be there. And actually, while we're getting into this, I should have mentioned it earlier. I'll put this in the tweet when this eventually goes out live, but we'll be giving away two free tickets to Penn home duels this year. So sometime during this podcast, during another podcast, we'll have some type of, I don't know, like surprise word or something like that. And the first person to DM Fantasy D1 Wrestling with that code word, that prize word, gets those 2 tickets for free right there. Lower-ish bowl, I guess you would call it, maybe 4 or 5 rows up to take a look at the action and everything like that. So free tickets, have at it. We'll let you know when we're going to announce those during this podcast. But yes, I've been hearing good things about Troy Spratley this year. I don't know. Maybe that's the David Taylor effect, year 1, month 1, day 1. But I've been hearing good things about him. Steve O'Poulin comes in, like you said, Drexel and Penn plus 6. And then we have a couple other guys to kind of look at. Sheldon Seymour, I think, is going to be getting the start at 25 right now. They had Matty Lopes. I think they were thinking maybe he could make a start there, but Seymour beat him at I want to say it was the Southeast Open, maybe, or Princeton Open. He beat him at the Princeton Open. So I think that kind of solidified Seymour as the starter there. Cooper Flynn, wrestling for Minnesota. Minnesota has the Daktronics listed on their schedule. We'll have to see. We're still waiting on entries to come in for that, so stay tuned there. Couple notes that we have. Provo hasn't wrestled for Stanford the past couple weeks. I don't know what's going on. He's been in some of their media stuff, lifting and running and whatnot. Haven't seen him yet. He's forfeited. I think Stanford's forfeited every match at 25 so far this year. Is this the week we see him maybe at Cal Poly, against Cal Poly?
I hope so. He's a good wrestler. I mean, I don't know what's going on, why he hasn't wrestled yet this year.
There's always a potential for some type of injury or something like that, but
skin disease, you never know.
Yeah. 25 is always that weight that they always say, how are grown men making 125? So
when you're my size, that's how you do it.
It's not so easy when you're my size, though.
No.
I will never see it. Maybe if I cut off one of my legs, I can make it down there.
The funny thing is, not to go completely on a tangent, but from all the walking that I've been doing with being a mailman, I'm back down to 135 pounds. So I'm only 10 pounds over making weight at 125.
Hey, if you got some eligibility left, I know there's people with some NIL money out there.
I'll take it.
For it. Let me see what other notes we got. So I had this in the notes. Iowa State 125 is very fascinating to me. Dresser said that Terrakina is going to be coming down, and I think he's going to be at the Grandview Open this weekend. You also have Osmani Diversion, who is the true freshman Cuban. So now they got 3 Cubans on their team. Somehow Iowa State has that Cuban pipeline I don't know how that was established. But and then you have Adrian Meza, who's listed at 133. He's been down at 125. He got a forfeit last week against Stanford, against Provo. Provo not wrestling. I think he's going to be wrestling. Dresser mentioned that there's a bunch of guys who are going to be wrestling in the duel and also at Grandview, kind of get that back-to-back type of feel. And I think Meza is going to be one of those guys. So he's going to get the start. But yeah, this should be good. A couple good matches to keep an eye out for at 125. Caleb Smith versus Anthony Moulton, Nebraska and Campbell wrestle. Eddie Ventresco from Virginia Tech and Noah Certain from Missouri. That's going to be a good duel in itself. Yeah. And then Vincent Robinson, everybody's new favorite 125 pounder, versus Dean Peterson, the Jagger favorites from Rutgers. They're going to be at the Jostle. So moving on to 133. Who do you like at 133?
You look good first week. I like Ethan Burgeon from Army. Pick up. I think he's going to get at least one bonus point, maybe two. So like 7 or 8 points out of him.
You always wonder when a wrestler goes up a weight, how are they going to do it? How are they going to do? Sometimes it's good, like what we're seeing with Bergen. You feel better. You're not cutting as much weight, especially at 125. Other times they're a little too big. You're not used to it. You don't have the type of moves that can translate well. Bergen seems to be doing well at 133, up from 125. I agree with you. I think there's at least one bonus for there. Nick Bouzakis have listed. He's going to be wrestling Chattanooga and Edinburgh. I have him with at least one bonus there as well. He was one of your top fantasy guys last year, so you got to roll with him. Anthony Noto up at 133, kind of what we were talking about. Great wrestler, past AA, lost last week, or was it the week before? He lost by one of those weeks. Could he be on his way down to 125? I mean, I got to assume he's certed there, but I don't know if you make that jump this early. You got to think, because any match, if you go down to 25, any match at 33 doesn't count towards your seeding or anything like that. So the quicker you can get down there and accumulate more of those data points, the better. If you're winning, if you're losing, it doesn't help you at all. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think he should stay at 33? I mean, he's wrestling Bloomsburg. Looking at the past history of his opponent, I think this is probably a pin, at least a back for him at 33. But the question is he even going to wrestle, or is he going to be on the descent more so?
I think they'll still use him in the dual meet. You can always weigh in light. You don't have to weigh in at 33. I don't even know what his plans are for him this year. I mean, he's pretty decent sized 25 pound. I don't know if he's struggling this year and he just wanted to go up, or if he's on, going to descend down. But he's not a small 25 pounder. I mean, height wise, he's not the tallest, but he's very, thick. So
he's been there the past 4 years.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's hard for anyone to keep their weight at that same weight for four or 5 years in a row.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, him and Ayala up at 33, they both take losses. I got Ayala on my team. I could have used him at 125 to help round out my team, but maybe do a little prayer at night that he goes, maybe 25 is for me. Maybe I got to go down to 25. Reese Whitcraft is wrestling at 133. He's got the starting spot, I believe. I know there's a lot of 33, 141 is kind of up in the air, but I think it's solidified right now with Whitcraft and Jameson, respectively. In that Whitcraft, I have him with 2 decisions here, maybe a bonus, but I wouldn't count on it. I would count on solid wins though. Do we see Crookham? We haven't seen Crookham wrestle yet. I don't know if there's something for the reason why he hasn't wrestled. Did they not want to just expose him to maybe some early, maybe still gain his weight down? I don't know, but kind of the opposite of what teammate Beard is doing. Beard's wrestling in everything he can.
Yeah. Beard's trying to get to 50 matches before Christmas.
And you can just coast, right? Let me see who else we got here. Braxton Brown, Dylan Raguson, both bonus point potentials there. If Ryan Crookham wrestles, I see that as a bonus. They're wrestling Morgan State, so for the most part, Morgan State is going to have a tough time with Lehigh. One or two matches I think they could maybe pull out. We'll see. What are some good matches at 133 this week to keep an eye out for?
I like Tyler Knox. We already saw how lethal he is. And he's going to wrestle Seth Rodney this week. That should be a good match.
Yeah, that's good. Who else we got? Jacob Van D, Ethan Oakley. That should be pretty good. There, I have Kurt Phipps and Tyler Wells listed. That low-key good match. Bucknell and Minnesota. I think Minnesota, obviously the Big Ten team, probably going to overpower Minnesota, but there's a few good matches within that Bucknell Minnesota match. Shout out again to my former coach, Dan Bechtold, his son up at 97 for Bucknell. So looking good. Probably going to pick him up in fantasy sometime soon on a stretch here. Connor McGonigal lost last week at the Mountaineer Invite in the finals there, but he's got Cade Moore this week. I think Cade lost earlier this year too. So it's kind of two guys coming off of trying to rebound, right? I think so. I think that's
I think you're right.
I have the power of the internet at my fingertips. I could always just double check here. Cade Moore he's 2-2. So he lost to Dominic Serrano. That's it. He lost by major to Dominic.
That's right. It was a major.
That wasn't an outcome I thought. And then he lost to Seth Romney 10-4 here. So Seth, like I said, going to have Tyler Knox. That should be a pretty good match. 141. Mendez. So Ohio State's got two matches. We're recording this on Wednesday, so this is going to come out on Thursday. Get those lineups in, early as you can by noon. I think it is for WrestleStat leagues. Mendez is wrestling in the All-Star Classic, so he is only going to be wrestling in the Chattanooga match on Thursday. So I expect that to be a tech. He's listed as the starter from their press release. So I would expect something big from him in that. What do you think of Brock Hardy? I feel like he's kind of in his own tier too, like we were talking about with Caliendo. Like there's Alirez, Mendez, Bartlett, and then there's Hardy.
Yeah.
And Hardy could go with those guys. He almost beat Bartlett last year. And
I don't think Hardy has enough on his feet for those guys. The neutrals is what gets him. He's just not as athletic as those guys are, and I'm not taking anything away from Brock Hardy.
Athletic. Did you see the splits he had?
I know, but the explosiveness of Bartlett and Mendez and Alvarez is unbelievable. Like, they're three of the best wrestlers on the planet.
Mendez surprised. He just makes it look so easy.
Yeah,
I don't know, something about the way he's been wrestling. He's just that whatever that national bracket shakes out to be, whoever's 1, 2, 3 between those three guys, even with Hardy at 4. Hardy could be a spoiler, right? Those 4 guys at 141, that's going to be a hell of a bracket, and 3 of them are going to be at Big Tens.
Yeah.
So Alirez just needs to kind of win Big 12s, and I think he's going to be set. He'll probably be the number 1 seed.
I don't know. I don't know. Do you think they give the number 1 seed over someone like Jesse Mendez if Mendez is undefeated?
That's a good point. I have to go and see the type of schedule, but I mean this week he's got Composto, which what a good transition. Let's give out the tickets at 141 because Alirez is wrestling CJ Composto this week at the Northern Colorado versus Penn duel. Why don't we do prize word of Quaker? So first person to message me, Fantasy D1 Wrestle on Twitter with the code word, the prize word Quaker, we'll get 2 free tickets to Saturday's duel with Penn and North Carolina, or not Northern Colorado. So there we go. Ta-da!
Love it.
All right, so moving on. So he's going to have Composto this week. I have to look at his schedule and see what other ranked guys he's going to see. I think they're at Cliff Keen, so that will help. But so is Ohio State.
Yeah, so Mendez and Alvarez should hit each other at Cliff Keen.
They could hit, and then that would definitely solidify more so of the national seeding, give you better clarity for your crystal balls and your projections and everything like that. It's going to be one of those three as the number one seed, and it very well could come down to who wins between Bartlett and Mendez in the duel.
Yeah.
So the Cliff Keen is going to be one to keep an eye on because Alirez and Mendez will hit. Again, Penn State's not going to be there. Then looking at Ohio State, Penn State, that's going to be huge for a lot of seeding implications across the board. So
and then Mendez and Bartlett should hit each other again at the Big Ten. So
right. They'll probably be one too.
And Hardy will be in there too. So that's gonna be a super tough Big Ten.
Big Ten's always Cliff Keen's the precursor to nationals, is a preview to nationals. Big Ten is the smaller preview of it, basically. But yeah. Who else?
Then you throw Sergio Lemley in there too for Big Ten.
That's true. He's given Hardy a lot of problems last year. So God damn, Big Ten. I'm so glad wrestling's back. We were talking about taking Jameson probably at 141 is going to be the guy moving forward. I know Taylor said there's still some things to shake out, but I think the way he performed last week at the Michigan State Open, I think he's good to go. Have him with +1. Malik Hines, like I said, I think Stanich stays on redshirt at least for now. They have time to determine what they want to do. He's got basically a good head start, Stanich, if they end up pulling the trigger, to use for seeding implications. Wyatt Henson against Bloomsburg, he's a tech master. He had one of the top tech rates last year. Have him teching in this one too. And Henry Porter from Indiana. We're talking about true freshmen. Aiden Valencia, do they pull the shirt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. He's already proven that he's good enough to go with anybody in the country.
I thought he was going to be 149, and he surprises us. He's at 141.
Yeah, well, if he stays at 141, I guess you might want to keep the shirt on. Let at least one of the let Alvarez graduate.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's kind of like the whole thing with. We'll get to it. Rocco Welsh up at 84. Let Srirachi, let Kekheisen graduate, and then it's basically you. There's always going to be more people coming in, dropping, bumping up, or whatever. But I would take that unknown rather than go against Kekheisen and Srirachi.
And Plot, too.
And Plot. That's right. Shit, I forgot about Plot. Yeah, and Plot. So Aiden Valencia, I think we're in the consensus. You probably keep the red shirt on. Let at least Alirez graduate.
Alirez and Bartlett are both seniors. So
that's right. And then you got just Mendez to really, for 1 year, deal with. Swiderski might go in the duel. He's down at 141, but he's probably not sure if he's going to be in the duel. Probably is what Dresser said. But he'll be at Grandview, but there's not a lot of D1 competition. So you might hit one or two guys. We'll see. Some good matches to keep an eye out for at 141. Sam Latono versus Josh Edmond. Andrew Alirez and CJ Composto. That's what we had mentioned earlier. Mackenzie Bell and Jordan Titus should also be a good one. West Virginia or is it Ryder?
Ryder at West Virginia.
Yeah. 149. Carter Young looks to get the start for the Cowboys. Have him at +9. He's got very good matchups this week. Who else do you like at 149?
I like Dylan D'Amelio from Ohio State. Chattanooga, Edinburgh, I think +8. I think you get 2 majors there.
Very well could. He's been wrestling really well too. He's solid in the lineup. Nicholas Stonechek from Lock Haven. Have him with +5 too. There's a lot of Lock Haven guys getting a lot of bonus this week. So I think there's only one or two where I'm kind of sketchy on projected points with them. But Kyle Parko, Anthony Echemendia, both those guys I also have as getting techs at their respective matches. Let's see who else. Cal Miller against American. I'd have him winning, probably a close one, but winning nonetheless. What are some good matches you see at 149 this week?
I think the best match of the week is probably going to be Ridge Lovett and Lachlan McNeil at their duel.
That should be good. McNeil coming up from 141 last year. I think he lost too. Sometime last week.
He lost.
Yeah.
He lost. Oh, he lost to Waters, right?
I think you're right.
I think Waters from West Virginia.
Let me see. Yes, he lost in sudden victory 4-1.
Yeah,
Waters at the Southeast Open. So that was the first week of competition. Since then, he's let's see. He majored Dominic Findora from Drexel, and then he teched Cayman Smith from Navy in 7 minutes. So yeah, he took his time. Jaden Abbas and Chance Lamer also. Abbas kind of getting a beating.
Yeah.
the early going, but he kind of had that same trajectory last year. It seemed like where early on to the year he was kind of slow results wise, started picking it up at CKLV, and then towards the end of the year he started putting it together, which is, I mean, if you're going to hit a stride, you might as well hit it at the end of the season.
True.
Antrell Taylor from Nebraska, we're now on 157. He's moving down. He's looked good so far. Have him as +7. Teague Travis and Joey Blaze, they're both at +7 as well. Who else do you like at 157? We got a bunch of
Ja'Cory Teamer, Iowa. I think he gets a tech against Bellarmine. Chase Odate, I like against Columbia. I think he gets a bonus.
He could even pin. He hasn't pinned anybody yet. He's been known to be a pinner. Yeah, one thing I will say, the projected lineups came out with the Iowa and Bellarmine, and pretty much straight lineup, full lineup for Iowa is projected. Now, they've done that game before where they have projected, and then 6 or 7 oars end up coming out to wrestle instead. But some of these big schools, I think, they know that they're the draw for that team that's hosting them. Kind of like in football, how they pay for like Appalachian State pays for Alabama to come play them and beat them at their home stadium. Because they know people are going to want to come to see Alabama football. I think it's kind of the same thing. Penn State, Iowa State. People want to come see. Was it Pendleton said their biggest match that they've ever had was Oklahoma State at Oregon State. They packed their arena with it. So there's a draw for the local fans to see teams like that. So I think that's pretty cool. They're going to Bellarmine, and they have pretty much their whole trophy contending team wrestling. Unfortunately for the wrestlers, it's the scoreboard's not going to be on their side, I don't think.
Yeah.
But good nonetheless, I think. Trevor Chumbley for Northwestern, got him at +4. Peyton Keller, have him as +4 with Michigan State. Keep an eye on that match, Ohio-Michigan State. Ohio beat Wisconsin earlier this year. They might have the ability to upset Michigan State too.
Yeah.
That would be 2 on their hit list, 2 Big Ten teams, which would be pretty impressive.
My nephew's team.
That's right. Yep, that's what it is. It's the Sheftick special.
Yeah.
Over the top. Tommy Askey from Minnesota, formerly of Appalachian State, I believe, against Bucknell, got him as +3 as well. Pinero is out of gambler jail, so he is eligible technically. He'll be at the Grandview Open again. Not a lot of D1 competition, but he will be there. So look to see him probably in the 157 lineup for Iowa State sometime soon with their duels. Some matchups we like here. Grigor Chalakian. Love what he's been putting together so far this season.
Yeah.
Very exciting. A pinner. He kind of took it to Teamer until Teamer kind of ran away with it. But I like it. I think on the broadcast, I don't know if it was Shane Sparks or if it was somebody, else. They were saying basically that Ayers and company were really impressed with where he was. They knew they were getting a good wrestler, and I think the quote was like they didn't know he was this good.
Yeah. Are they keeping him on red shirt this year, or
I don't know. You might want to roll with him because 57 is kind of open.
yeah.
There's I mean, if you're looking at the rankings with 157, you got Meyer Shapiro, which we were talking off air, but we'll bring it up here. You know, there's injury concerns right now. We don't know if it's head, if there's something else, if ankle or something like that. Don't want to speculate. Don't want to put anything out there that we don't know. But you can tell he injury defaulted out of Journeyman, so there was something there. You can go back and watch the match, make your own decision. And then you got Tyler Kasich, who probably is going to redshirt this year.
That's what I'm hearing.
Mineo put out the thing about the Facundo beating him. Ja'Cory Teamer, and then you got Peyton Keller, Ryder Downey, Tommy Askey, Antrell Taylor, Johnny Lovett is within the top 10. T. Travis. I mean, it's kind of open.
Yeah, I could see him definitely making the podium.
Yeah, there's definitely Vince Zerbin is your number 11 ranked guy. I mean, Pinero's under there, Ed Scott's down there, Joey Blaze. There's competition, but I think that's better than. And if you look at what years they are, I mean, they're sophomores, they're juniors. There's a few seniors sprinkled throughout. So I mean, you're going to see these guys next year anyway.
Yeah,
it depends on what their recruiting looks like. Again, the game plan and what the sales pitch was. So we'll see.
Ed Scott took a couple losses last week, didn't he?
Who did?
Ed Scott, didn't he?
He did. And that's actually the next good transition. There we go. We're doing well with the transition, the segues in this episode. Ed Scott and Connor Harr, a true freshman for Rutgers, looking good. Yes, he had a couple of losses last week. Ed Scott, he lost to Jimmy Harrington from Harvard, and he lost to Jude Swisher from Penn. So Swisher up at 157 this week. Swisher's going to have Zerbin, which is another one of our watch list duels or matches, I should say.
I'm wondering if Scott's issue is weight related, weight cut, because I mean he wrestled 152 his senior year of high school, like 5 years ago.
And he's always been at 157.
Yeah, and he's big. He was big in high school at 152. I can't imagine he only gained 5 pounds in 5 years.
I think he announced himself to the wrestling world at the first collegiate duels, I think like 3 years ago or 4 years ago in Destin. He pinned Caleb Young. That was a huge match at the time. But yeah, I don't know. Ed Scott's always been that kind of guy who you're like, okay, it's Ed Scott, so that's going to be a tough match and everything. And then there's always those 1 or 2 matches where it just, he loses the guys that you don't think he's going to lose to.
Yeah.
But he's a pinner. He's a bonus guy, a bonus getter. So you kind of roll with him if you drafted him. You got to. You don't waste a high draft pick on a guy like that and you not wrestle.
Yeah.
165, Evan Mag from George Mason has Edinburgh and Clarion. I think of the Clarion match or the George Mason matchups, I think he's got kind of the best right there to get +8. Caliendo, again, he's been getting bonus like crazy. I have him at +5. Who else we got at Peyton Hall? We were talking about Ryder +4 projected. Tyler Lillard from Indiana. He's got the starting spot against Central Michigan. He's got +3 there. What other good matchups do you think at 165?
I like Hunter Garvin against Luca Wick.
Wick had a good upset win last week. Who did he beat? Oh my gosh, I put in Wick, and there's a lot of Wicks in WrestleStat. He beat Stony Buell from Purdue. I mean, he lost to Tyler Lillard by major. He lost to Steed, but he did beat Stony Buell. Good win to get him back into good graces in the ranking side. He was a good true freshman start for me as in fantasy. Who else we got here? Noah Mulvaney. We haven't seen him for a little bit. He had that loss by pin, and then Didn't see him last week. I'm assuming he's going to be wrestling this week. He'll have Andrew Sparks, which should be a good match. Andrew Sparks,
Yeah.
he's back. He's back to his old Sparky way. And then Cam Amin and Terrell Barraclaw face off this week.
Yeah.
That should be a good match.
There's another Penn State guy that left and is doing really well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, he took Shane Griffith to the brink last year in their duel. Yeah, so I like there's a lot of stuff coming out of Utah Valley that I really like. They got, their singlets look awesome. They got some merch, some shirts and stuff with Willie, the bear or whatever it is. Looks good. I like what Adam Hall's doing already. Real early, he's having a good impact over there. All right, let's try to get this wrapped up as soon as possible here. 174, Dean Hamidi. He's going to be back. He's up a weight, 174. I don't foresee his bonus getting weighs slowing down just because he's up a weight. So have him as +9, probably closer to +10, if we're being honest. He likes to tech people. That's what he does. Lenny Pinto coming down a weight. He's projected at +8. Have him at North Carolina at Campbell this week. Bryce Hepner is up. So we're up, down, up. Bryce Hepner is going to be wrestling up because we didn't mention this in the last weight. Sammy Sasso is going to be wrestling 2 duels this weekend.
That's right.
Welcome back, Sammy. So I don't know where Sammy is after being shot and getting back on the mat. I mean, before the Clarion Open, Jaggers was saying like he wasn't even going live necessarily. Here's my hypothetical, a conspiracy theory. Maybe not conspiracy theory is the best word, but I say Sammy goes out. It's a home duels for Ohio State. Goes out, he wrestles, he wins. They're winnable matches for him, even in his state. And then he leaves his shoes on the mat right there. Home crowd, gets a win, gets a pin maybe, puts his thing, you got the home crowd, everybody, I don't know. At some point, I think that happens at a home duel. I don't, maybe he pulls a Kaiser Soze and, he's limping off the mat and then he just starts walking normal or something. But I think it's a little bit too far for him to come back. I don't know. I
don't know the extent of the injuries, but I don't
think we see him in March.
It'd be a shock if he was back to like even close to 100% after something like that.
Yeah. So I think Hepner eventually will come down, but for this to accommodate, and I think Hartzell is still on his way back to getting healthy for 174. So there's room to do this maneuver. So Hepner up at 74. I still have him bonusing at 174. So make sure that you either put him in that 74 or you put him in a floater spot for your rosters if you are using Hepner. Tyler Stoltzfus from Lock Haven, going to be wrestling Bloomsburg. Nelson Brands, I have him getting bonus. I know that's crazy to think that Nelson Brands would be getting a bonus win in a duel, but you know what? I'm going out on a ledge. I'm going to have him at least 4 points, 14 points there.
If he doesn't bonus at this match, then there's no hope of him ever getting a bonus.
I mean, you got Patrick Kennedy in the wings. Patrick Kennedy was listed as an or, so I'll say that. Keep an eye out for what they're going to do if there's any hints in media days and whatnot. But I got to assume that we're rolling with Brands on this. But Patrick Kennedy's right there in the wings to take over. He's kind of the utility guy. It seems like if Arnold goes down, he goes up to 84. If Nelson goes down, he goes to 74. If Caliendo goes down, he'll go down to 65. He's just kind of waiting in the wings. Where am I needed? Kind of thing. Garrett Thompson is also up at 74. Now he's officially moving up. It seems like for Ohio, he'll be wrestling Michigan State. I have him as +4. Nick Incontrera from Penn won Journeyman Classic last week. I got him as +4 against Northern Colorado. Keegan O'Toole, I have his +3. Wrestling 74, that means he's wrestling Wolak, right? So I have him conservatively put at 3.
Yeah, Wolak's a tough opponent, so
that's what I mean. Looking at the data, looking at the history, he doesn't get bonus much. Keegan O'Toole is not just your average bonus wrestler, though. So I think Keegan O'Toole wins. Is it by bonus? I'm not sure, but I think you roll with him either way. If you get bonus, it's icing on the cake. Just get the win.
Yeah,
so you got to roll with Keegan. Not a lot of great matches lined up here, but Matthew Singleton, Jackson Turley should be a good match. Logan Messer, John Worthing should also be a good match. 184. Who do you like at 184?
He's a pinning machine. I like Robert Ragazzi from Ohio State. The guy just, I mean, if there's any way to pin you, he's going to find it because that's what he does.
That's what he does. So we have conservatively put kind of 8 points there, but definitely pin warning somewhere in there. Dustin Plott, I also like him to get bonus points moving forward. Silas Allred, moving down from 97 to 84. Him and Pinto kind of did the double shift down. Got him as +7. That should be Jackson Smith in the document here. Jackson Smith from Maryland, down a weight also. We got a lot of weight changes.
Yeah,
this year. I don't know. Gabe Arnold at 84, also with Bellarmine. I have him as +4. I don't know if that's because I was getting tired of putting Iowa 5 with all this, but have him as +4. And let me see. Who else do you like at 184?
I'm excited to see him wrestle this year as a starter for full time. But Max McNally from Minnesota.
Yeah.
He was a big recruit for them. So,
and he had a good true freshman year too.
Yeah,
redshirt year. Yes, he's at 184. Salazar bumped up to 197. No, we should also mention Evan Bachman down at 184 after wrestling 97 last year. Kind of looked like he was going to lose that match last week, but he storms back. He ends up winning. You got to assume early season gas tank is definitely on the lower end of being full. And here's a question I have. Where's Donnell Washington for Indiana?
I think he's like the chairman for the AARP.
I drafted you with hopes that you were going to be pinning your way like you do at the beginning of every season. Haven't seen you. I had to drop you. I had to go with some other guys. I'm sorry. I think I went with Malachi Duvall from George Mason. So
I can't believe he's still in college.
There's a lot of people you can say that about.
I'm sure Washington wasn't that
they're called doctors, Richard.
Wasn't that oh my God, my brain doesn't work anymore. The wrestler from Texas, Nickel. Wasn't that Nickel's first loss in college? Was to Donald Washington? Oh, that was Srirachi's first.
Srirachi. He was coming off being sick or something, and that Donnell Washington has that claim to fame of being like. Well, we joke that Kale has a plan that everybody has to lose. It's the Penn State tax. You have to lose your first match. You can't go undefeated your whole career if you're going to wrestle for Kale. So Srirachi lost a match to Donnell Washington, of all people. Looking at, I think that was a sophomore year, right? I think something.
Yeah.
But the Penn State tax, that's a real thing. Kind of like the Siriano curse. Which might be reversed this year. We'll see. I should mention that. So Penn State does have a match against Drexel this week. Half their team is slated to wrestle, maybe not with Kasich, but half their team is basically slotted to wrestle at the All-Star Classic. So I don't know who's exactly going to be wrestling against Drexel. I think there's a good matchup at any weight. If you know who's going to be wrestling, I'll get back to you, obviously, with a forum post on when we get some clarity on that. And then let me see. TJ Stewart, we haven't seen yet, but he's slated to wrestle Colton Hawks from Missouri. Dylan Fishback and Brian Soldano should be a good one.
That's a really good one.
When I was putting in the wrestling sense lines when I was making the lines and everything, then and looking at data and pointing it through the formulas and whatnot. We have the one thing that says win by pin. So if you have your spread and you also have win by pin, DQ, or injury or whatever, and Soldano kept coming out at like not a terrible plus for win by pin, because and it also for the opponent too. I think it's something like he's at like 400, 350, which in the grand scheme of things, like that's pretty good odds, favorite odds, because he has a very good chance of pinning anybody. He's kind of like Ragazzi, but he can also get pinned in anything too. There's been many opportunity for him to win, and then he ends up losing by pin. So it kind of goes both ways. So keep an eye out for that. That definitely could happen. 197. Who you like at 197?
Staying with the Ohio State team, I like Luke Geog for 2 bonus point wins.
Mm-hmm. Poznansky, one of the few Rutgers guys who I think has a good shot at winning 2 matches. All the other ones are going to be pretty well contested with NC State. That's going to be a good duel in itself. Yeah, Rutgers and NC State. But Poznansky with Long Island and NC State, I think, has 2 good opportunities to get at least 1 bonus there. Gabe Sollers, probably not a name you recognize unless you follow fantasy very closely. He was a top fantasy wrestler last year. Lots of pins, and that's what I'm projecting this week too. He's going to get another pin here. Michael Beard, I think, gets a tech. I think he keeps adding to his top spot here in the overall standings. And Stephen Buchanan is slated to wrestle against Bowen. Have him go. What do you think of Christian Carroll at 197?
He looked big and strong and dangerous.
Lean. I'll say lean, because obviously he was at the heavier weight. He's kind of one of those. John Foster always says that he wants that 220, that 215 weight class, and he would be perfect for it. But 197, he looks absolutely huge. Yeah. Oh,
he has to be gigantic at that weight.
Kind of like what we were thinking with even more so than Amos. Remember Amos coming down? Thought he looked huge. I think Christian Carroll, I think, looks bigger than Amos. We were talking about Salazar. Salazar's up at 197 now against Bucknell. I have him with win. And Nick Stemmet, who's been kind of the guy who always gets beat these past couple of weeks with AJ Ferrari, with Buchanan, and everybody. I have him winning at Cal Poly +3. So get a win on the board for Nick Stemmet. What good matches do you see this week at 197?
I'm really excited to see Sonny Sasso wrestle Rocky Elam.
Yeah. I don't know. When I was trying to make the line for that too, it's hard to pick. I mean, you got to go with the seasoned vet, right? But Sasso's been on one of those tears where all he's done is pin people. Now they haven't been to the ranking of a Rocky Elam, right? But when you're on a streak, you're on a streak.
I watched Sasso wrestle the last couple of years when he was in high school, and he is dangerous with his hips. He is very tall and lanky, and he's got great reach and really good hips. And he's got the hips just like his brother does, except he's about 11 inches taller. So with his reach and how long he is, and with his hips, like, he's going to be dangerous for anybody at that weight.
Yeah, so that should be a good one. We also have Trey Munoz and Luke Serber, who I think is going to be a pretty good match too.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
Munoz looked good against Buchanan. I just think Buchanan had just a little bit too much for him. But this, I got to give the edge to Munoz probably.
Yeah, I think I'll take Munoz too
for him. Serber's no pushover either, though. That's the thing. And finally, 285, Wyatt Hendrickson. I got him probably getting a pin because that's usually what he does, at least one pin there. Isaac Trumbull, going to have a week. He's got Appalachian State, should win that. He's got Princeton, should win that. Then he's going to have Slavikuski. I don't know how to project that, because coming in, I in the 3 or 4 fantasy leagues that I'm in, I was able to wait to get my heavyweight because I was putting all my eggs in the basket of Trumbull's going to have a great, not a Wyatt Hendrickson style bonus point, pinning spree like that, but I think he was going to be up there. I think and NC State has a pretty good schedule, consistent schedule where there's not a lot of time off either. But he got pinned by Colton Schultz. That is what it is. He only beat Gadiali 2-1 in their match in the first match of the season. So maybe it's just getting accustomed to the weight. And he wrestled there last year in redshirt, but I don't know. I expected more. So this match against Slavikuski, who keeps things close, I think will be telling. If he looks like he's struggling with Slavikuski and can't get to his stuff, then I'm gonna not worry, but I'm gonna lower my expectations of what I can get in March.
Yeah. Did you see the match with Schultz when he pinned Trumbull?
Yeah,
because it looked to me like Schultz had an illegal headlock for part of that pinning combination.
Did he?
It didn't look like he had the arm encircled until like later. I mean, he got the arm encircled, but it looked to me like when he was holding him down that he just had the head and had his hands gripped, and then kind of like got the arm afterwards. I was like, oh, that looked like an illegal headlock for a sec.
It looked because like what he did like a knee block, had Trumbull go straight back, and then you have all of Colton Schultz falling on top of you like that, and it looked like he was over top of the head, under the arm, and then he transited. Is that what you're talking about when he was kind of over top?
He had around the head and around the arm, and it looked like shortly that he locked without the arm being encircled.
Okay,
he just had the head. I'd have to go back and watch it again, but I watched it and I was like, that looked like, not that the ref was ever going to see that because the ref's looking for the back points and the pin,
right?
But it looked like for at least a second or two that maybe that was an illegal headlock before he pushed the arm through.
Yeah, well, I mean, you never like to say, ref, you got to let that go, but I in a situation like that where they're still both kind of flailing, I think it's acceptable to kind of let it. I don't know. It's kind of like the touching hands. Like you don't call as soon as you drop a guy down, if they glance, you're not calling locked hands.
Right. Yeah.
Let it go. Moving on here, Trevor Tinker. He had a tech earlier this season that surprised me. I'm going to go with a tech this week against Stanford. Daniel Herrera is going to be wrestling Navy. They got him as a +5. He's looked pretty good in the stay for Bastida. He was one of the guys that Dresser said is going to be doing double duty, so he's going to be wrestling the duel. And he's going to be at Grandview. Also mentioned that Bastida has been working out in the room. He's probably going to be at Grandview also, so they're going to be testing him to see how he does. Gadiali, I have him against Nebraska, but I think he's wrestling in the All-Star Classic, right? I believe.
Is that who Kirk Fleet's wrestling?
Well, Kirk is out.
He's out of the All-Star.
Yeah, he's out of the All-Star. So let me see here. I'm bringing up the article here. And the heavyweight, Feldman and Gadiali are the new one. And Feldman, since we're on heavyweight, Feldman's only going to be wrestling one of those 2 matches also for Ohio State. So let me see what we got here. So Ben Cuter +4 against Bellarmine. Bennett Tabor for the time that he's still a starter during this first semester for Minnesota. I have him against Bucknell, have him +4. Jimmy Mullen against Missouri, I have him winning. Very possible to be bonusing like he did. And like we said, Trumbull and Slavikuski, that's the match kind of to watch for heavyweight. You want to do real quick All-Star Classic picks?
Sure.
All right. I got to get back to sharing my screen here. Share that. There we go. Okay, so we got here Jory Volk and Tanner Jordan. I'm going to go Volk.
Yeah, me too.
Nasir Bailey, Lucas Bird. I'm going to go. I picked first last time. You pick first.
I'll take Bailey.
I'll go Bird. Bird hasn't been putting up the bonus points like he's accustomed to, but that's going to be a good match. Mendez and Bartlett. I'm going to go with Mendez.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's hard to pick against Penn State, but Mendez is so good.
State. Shane Van Ness and Ty Waters. We haven't seen Shane Van Ness yet. Waters has had some matches under his belt so far. I'm going to go Waters with the upset.
All right, I'm going to go Van Ness.
Okay, that would be a good specials for Wrestling Sense. Do all the Penn State matches win? Very possible.
It's possible. I think at least one of them is going to lose.
The Mendez match is a toss-up.
Yeah.
Van Ness, Waters, you got to favor Van Ness, but, you never know. Kasich and Keller, you got to go with Kasich, I would assume, but Keller's an A.
Yeah, I would take Kasich.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kasich on that as well. Hunter Garvin, Peyton Hall. I'm going to say Garvin.
I'll take Hall.
Okay. Levi Haynes and Devos. I'm going to go Haynes.
Yeah, me too.
Starachi, Keckeisen. That's kind of the match of the duel.
Yeah, I'll take Starachi.
I'll go Keckeisen with a crazy upset. I love Keckeisen. He's
I do too. I just don't see how he scores on Starachi. Nobody can score on Starachi
at home too. Stephen Little and Zach Bronigal. Everyone's been talking up Stephen Little, and he's a great wrestler, but I don't know. Some people are calling him for like a national champion. Again, no disrespect. I would love to see Little Rock get a national champion this early in their history, but I don't know. I'm going to go Zach Bronigal.
Yeah, I'm going to go Big Ten. I'll go with Bronigal too.
Derek Blueball from Indianapolis and Adene from Wartburg was supposed to be at Wisconsin. That was a whole thing. I'm going to go in Dene because
me too.
And Feldman Gadiali.
Oh, Feldman.
That's what I think too. So we're just doing the guys here on that. So that's week 3 for us. So not really anything else. Hopefully we gave you some insight. Hopefully we gave you some ideas for shaping your lineup to win week 3. Todd, anything else for the good of the cause?
No, everybody, good luck on your matchups. Make sure you get your matchups in early enough, and good luck.
All right, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for listening, or thanks for clicking. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, as we like to say. Go out, win week 3, and we'll see you next week in week 4.
See you next week, guys.